Hi everyone and welcome to another art lesson. Again, everyone's done a really great job with the lips that you did last week, and I think we had some really nice examples. So although they do look really different, because most people are obviously drawing different lips, I think whether it's the small details or the correct shadows, everyone's really been considering how to make them as 3D as possible. So we're rattling through all the features of the face now, and I'm sure that you've guessed that we're moving on to the nose. Now, in a lot of ways, the nose is quite similar to the lips in that there isn't a huge amount of linear detail or shapes. But because this feature sticks out of your head, it really is quite 3D. And that usually means that what's going to make it look really realistic is the shadows. And just like we did with the Loomis head, the eyes and the lips, we want to be able to draw it from any direction, right? We want to be able to draw it in every possible scenario and not just straight on. So today we are learning to develop skills drawing the nose. I will be successful if I can understand the structure and anatomy of the nose, simplify the nose into 4 3D planes, add in the detailed features of the nose, add one layer of tone into all the shadows in my nose, and apply multiple layers of darker tones into smaller tonal details. And there is also an extension task which I'll talk to you all about at the end. Now, I'm sure you've all noticed by now, but drawing all the features and really any tonal drawing that you do in art is going to start off in the same way because it makes it realistic and it makes it easy for ourselves. So we start off with a light sketch thinking about the structure of whatever it is we're drawing. Then we add little linear details and shapes. We then go over with one light layer of tone and then spend as much time as possible adding in small tonal details. So if you can apply this to any drawing rather than try rush into the details straight away, I guarantee that all your drawings are going to improve. So you have a photo to work from, you're going to want to take a photo of your nose just from a slight angle to start, just like you did with the eye and the lips. And as well, try and have some clear shadows coming in, so as long as the light is somewhere from above, that should be fine. Now, some of the mistakes that people make is the nose looks too flat and it's also not pointed in the right direction. Because the nose is such a strange shape, you have to understand it as a simplified box made up of side planes, a top plane, and a bottom plane. And these change shape depending on the direction the person is looking. Always think about these shapes before you add in the details like nostrils or the ridge of your nose. Now, depending on what way the person is looking, you could see less of one of the side planes or not see it at all. If the person is looking completely to one way, the side plane and the front plane are going to completely disappear. From straight on, you'll usually see a little of the bottom plane of the nose, and the further the person is looking up, the closer the nose is going to appear to the eye. If they look far up enough, it'll actually cover the eye. And then if a person is looking down, the top of the nose will eventually extend down past the nostrils. Now, making sure to draw the nose going in the right direction is really important to make any face look right, or it can really distort the face. So now that we have an understanding of the structure of the nose, let's have a look at the actual anatomy. Now, the nose isn't just solid bone, but also pieces of cartilage and fat. We have 3 main bits: the bridge, the ball, and the wings. Some things about the structure of these pieces are important to know when you're drawing because they can help you look out for certain details. For example, the bridge has a flat plane that has 2 thin sharp ridges as it connects to the side plane. And the ball of the nose is actually made up of 2 pieces of cartilage, which depending on the person can actually have a really clear shadow or have no shadow at all. These pieces of cartilage round at the bottom and hook into your septum, which is just above your lips. You'll often see a little bump here where it connects to the septum. On the sides of the ball, there are 2 wings made up of fatty tissue that surround your nostril. These hook around and under the nostril. The fact that these wings hook is integral to making your drawing look accurate and to avoid noses that look like these. The first mistake with these is just a 2D outline of the nose, and the second focuses more on the shape of the nostrils. Whereas to make it look accurate, we have to focus on the volume and the shape of the ball and the nostrils as they hook around. Now that we understand more about the anatomy and the structure of the nose, we can actually start drawing. Just like our drawing for the eyes and the lips, we want to start loosely just by putting in the structure. No actual small details yet. So I'm just going to draw the shape of the entire outline of the nose. Then I'm going to add a line to separate the bottom plane. Imagine this is cutting through the center of the ball of the nose. Then I'm just going to slightly define the bottom of the ball. Next, I want to separate the top plane from the side planes of the nose. So this would be the ridge of the nose. You can see because the person is looking to my left the plane on the left is much smaller than the one on the right. Then you can also just extend the nose up where it would meet the eye socket. It's always best if you can to draw what's around the feature so it doesn't just look like an object floating in space. Next, I want to lightly put in the shape of the septum and the wings in the bottom plane of the nose, making sure to show that they are curving and tucking in underneath. Because they hook underneath, this means the nostrils are not usually an oval shape like a lot of people draw, but it's almost more like a comma. You might notice if your nose has really clear shadows, the little other planes of the nose are starting to show through. For example, the shadow that's being drawn in here is the minor plane on the side of the ball of the nose. Depending on the shadows or the shape of your nose, you might not be able to see some of these. Although they're small, looking out for these small details are what makes the nose look as realistic as possible. Just like with the other features, it looks a bit odd at this stage. This is because we haven't added in tone. And realistic shadows are what makes you be able to recognize that something is 3D. So now we are going to go in with just one value of tone first. So remember, this means that any area in shadow, even slightly, gets covered in a layer of shade, but the value of the tone should be the same everywhere and quite light, like here under the nose and around the socket. Next, I'll go in with my darker shadows. An easy one is the nostrils, which are usually completely dark, as well as around the wings and under the septum. Now we want to go in with some lighter shadows, always thinking about the structure of the nose. Generally, because the top plane sticks out, it's going to be quite light because the light is hitting it. Although the side planes stick out a little, they're usually slightly darker, and then it's usually darkest in the bottom plane. This is usually the case because the light is coming from above. If it was coming from below, then the bottom plane would be lit up. This is good to keep in mind when you're doing your drawing. So I'll fill in the side planes lighter and also in the ball of the nose. Now it's a case of studying your image as closely as possible and gradually adding in details to your shadows and to your midtones. Remember how complicated your skin can be when light bounces off of it. There's loads of shadowy details. The more of them you can add in, the better it will look. Just make sure to keep those highlights bright. And now we have our finished nose. As always, I'd recommend doing the task alongside the video to make it easier for yourself. There are loads of steps to these, and just by taking your time and kind of going through them one by one, it makes it a lot easier. And remember, just don't get a picture of the nose and go straight into the detail or straight into some other method you know. If we want it to look as good as possible, you have to be patient, you have to draw out the structure, add in the details, and then very slowly build up your shadows. And this isn't the case for everyone, but some people did draw like the lips or the eye and they didn't put any shadows around it. Now, preferably, it's always best to look at the shadows around the eye because you could have perfect looking eyes or perfect looking lips, but if you don't know the structure that sits around it, then it's never going to look as good as possible. Now, I'm really looking forward to seeing these. We're one step closer to drawing the entire face. Now, we have a holiday coming up next week, so this won't be due for another 2 weeks. But because you'll all have an extra few days, I also want you to do one other really small task. Now, I'm sure you figured out that we're learning how to draw all the features of the face, and eventually we're going to draw them all together, starting with a Loomis head and then adding in all our features. Now, what makes a drawing easier for you later is having a great photo reference to start off with. So we want to take a really good photo of ourselves to use. Now, I'm sure you've all taken loads of photos of yourself, but it can be quite hard, so asking someone to help is always a good idea. Now, this isn't going to just be any photo, there's a few things we really want to have. First of all, we want to make sure it's in focus and not very blurry. So usually on your phone, that means tapping the area you want to be sharp and in focus, and then holding your camera as still as possible. Also, I know it's a little boring, but I wouldn't smile or have any expression in your face. Drawing someone looking happy or angry or any emotion isn't something we've really went over yet, and it does change the face quite a lot. So make life easy for yourself and just have a kind of deadpan plain look. The next thing is we don't want to be too far away, so we're not going to be drawing anything except the head, so we want as much detail as possible. So try if you can to have the head take up most of the image and have not much space on either side. Next, we want to make sure that our lighting is correct, so that means no flash. Now remember, all these drawings look best because of the shadows, and if we use a flash, that means that there aren't going to be any shadows. So it's best to have the light coming from above or maybe just a little from the side, as long as it's not coming straight on, and definitely if it's not underneath you. Having the light from underneath can end up making you look a bit spooky. And the last thing I want to do is face slightly in one direction. So we've been learning how to draw the face at any angle, and we don't want our face to just be completely straight on. So I'm just going to look slightly to the left and up. Now don't make this too much of an extreme angle, just a slight turn will do fine. And now I have my photo ready to draw from. So for 2 weeks from now, make sure to submit your nose drawings as well as the photos that you're ready to do for the drawing of your face. I think before we draw the entire face, it's good to go over drawing ears and drawing hair, but I want to make sure that everyone has these images ready to draw from and that they're of a good quality. So if the image doesn't quite work, then at least if you send it in, I can give some feedback and you can take it again. Now, hopefully that all made sense. As always, I can't wait to see the work that everyone does. Just remember, you can message me at any time if you need any help, or you can attend the check-in as well. Now, although you guys are going to be on holiday, everyone should still have a check-in before the hand-in if you're unsure of anything. So as always, I hope you're all keeping safe at home, have a great holiday, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.